Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan of the Chart Guys. I've been trading cannabis for 13 and a half years, and in this video we're going to check in on the sector. Do we have things to worry about? Are there red flags? I'm going to spend a good bit of time on the psychedelic sector as well, as there's been some exciting developments on the charts recently, and I'm going to talk a bit about the bigger picture and why I think that is a sector absolutely worth paying attention to as well. So we'll start with cannabis first, and we'll do a little bit of a fundamental rundown as to where we stand right now. Again, no word from the DEA. Could be at any point in time. I've always thought it would be closer towards the end of the summer to hold it towards the election, but that's a wild guess. I have no idea. But we got no new updates there. Safer. So we've got Don, I forget his last name, the Don on Twitter, as far as, being one of the more trusted cannabis insiders on Capitol Hill. And he recently said, safer, he's thinking that it could be passed by the House, the Senate, and signed into law by July. Again, as far as safer is concerned, with the amount of jerking around that we've had with this thing, I'll care about it when votes start passing. Pass the House and the Senate, I'll care about safe. But that's what we're looking at as far as a dangling carrot in the near-term future. And other than that, still watching, right now it's looking like the nearest catalyst could potentially be getting word that the vote for Florida legalization is indeed going to be on the ballot. And again, if we run into April and we haven't heard anything, that means by default, it will be on the ballot. And I'll talk a bit more about that when we get to Trulieve, but I'm not sure how much of that is priced in or not. And I know it would benefit at least a bit if we do get that confirmation. It's just a question of how much, and I'm not quite sure, but we'll talk about that a bit more. And otherwise, earnings this week in the sector, very, very bullish as far as, pretty much ideal as far as how well it could have gone for at least the major names, Green Thumb and Trulieve. And the big takeaways there are, Green Thumb has already bought back, I believe, $40 million of shares, and they just opened up another 50 million. So I believe they now have 60 million of potential capital to be buying back some of their shares, which obviously always helps things bigger picture. And their earnings, were good as far as beating expectations. Trulieve, the big news was getting back 100, maybe 113 million, was it, from the IRS related to 280E, and that now being treated as a trade secret because they're the only company that's at this point gotten money back for the unfair, tax burdens that are placed on this sector. And that 280E is a large reason why people are excited about the potential of rescheduling to remove those barriers as far as the accounting side of things. So that's really good news, bigger picture. And then we also had news Mitch McConnell is stepping down, and he's always been a bit of a thorn in the side of cannabis advocates. And if he were to be replaced by Rand Paul, who is much more libertarian and freedom of states and things like that, that would be definitely an upgrade for this sector if it were to be Rand Paul instead of Mitch McConnell. But we'll have to see who replaces him. But on the backs of all of that news, we were red that day. And again, that's very surprising. And, well, no, it's not. It's not very surprising. For many people it is, for the fundamentals to unalign with the price so significantly. But that morning, I laid out a scenario. We'll talk bigger picture in just a moment. But Thursday morning, I laid out a scenario, and what comes to my mind is a quote from The Art of War, and I don't have it memorized, but it's essentially, know your enemy. You need to know your enemy. And so if I'm bullish, I look at the chart as if I'm a bear. And if I'm bearish, I look at the chart as if I'm a bull. I want to be looking at it from, it's impossible to eliminate our bias. And we can eliminate as much as we can, but, to ensure that I'm eliminating it, I'm going to look at it with a bull bias and I'm going to look at it with a bear bias. And so I went into the morning and posted on Twitter before the open, the Bears are going to try their hardest to be red today to crush retail souls that earnings don't matter and it's hopeless without a headline. Can the Bulls prove something? 918 would be a start. I chose 918 because it's just a clear short-term resistance zone. We struggled at that level on Tuesday. We topped out there a bunch. And then on Wednesday, we topped out just under 918. So I just draw that little channel, and clearly there's price action zone there. And so, if the Bulls are going to prove something, we got to turn that zone into support. And so, of course, the day opens, you get the initial surge of people excited about the earnings reaction. We stop right in that resistance zone, and we then roll over with the Bears absolutely smashing things into the end of the day and achieving their goal. It was the perfect bear day. And I imagine what would be the perfect bear day, and it played out exactly like that. And so that's just showing us that the bears still have complete short-term control. And so now that 918 level, that resistance zone, is very important to me in the short term. And all things considered, with how ugly Thursday was, Friday was definitely a nice win for the bulls, at least, not completely dumping, trying to put up a fight, have to confirm an hourly uptrend, which means on Monday here, we need a bull break of 896, might as well call it 9, to confirm the hourly uptrend and test that resistance zone again. But definitely a winning week for the bears overall, and the burden is back on the bulls because, again, you could just feel the psychological torment that traders and investors have had in this sector. You can feel it creep in when you have days like Thursday. And again, the bears know this. They know, those of us that do this professionally, it's all about the emotions of the herd. It's the emotions of the non-professionals. And, the bears were just smashing the emotions of traders and investors on Thursday. So Friday ended up being a daily inside bar. And, really what has to happen from here is we need a few green days in a row because if we break 828, that to me is a red flag. And honestly, Thursday made me think about my game plan, which I may shift a little bit. And the reason for that is, okay, well, if we're not going to get it, clearly we need a headline. That's what it all boils down to at this point. And I say that because the broader market environment. So, I'm trading everything. I'm trading crypto. I'm trading semiconductors. I'm trading stocks, the biotech sector. I'm trading cannabis. And this sector environment right now, where we stand, could not be better for the bulls. Literally, it cannot be better for the bulls. You've got the broader market at all-time highs in a melt-up, a V-shaped melt-up, where the S&P 500 for 4 months has gone straight up to a magnitude that I'm not sure I've ever seen. And it's just astounding, the strength. The semiconductors, some of these names going hundreds of % over the last couple of months, just in absolute beast mode. You've got growth names starting to get rotation. IWM, the Russell 2000, just hit 2-year highs on Thursday and Friday. You got the biotech sector, which is part of growth, just breaking out of a key resistance zone and having a big move up. You've got crypto going nuts. People risk on. This is when people just start throwing money at the wall at anything because everything is working for the bulls. And this environment reminds me of 2021 in terms of that just massive euphoria. And so with all of that backdrop, if this sector is struggling to perform, it's a red flag because my mindset is, well, what if the broader market gets a 5% pullback, which is due at any point and would be healthy on the longer term time frames? What would happen to this sector? And the answer is it would get knocked down a good bit. And so, the fact that we've been consolidating the past 3 weeks is enough for me to say it's just showing us we absolutely need a headline because this is the environment where bulls perform without headlines, without needing those headlines. But obviously that's not happening this past week. And so for me, my mindset is now I don't want to bag hold. What if we don't get any DEA news on SAFE until August? Whether you think that's unlikely or not, whatever, it's a possibility. And so if that were to be the case, I'm not going to hold a slow bleed. And that's what saved me it's what's helped me make money in this sector, even after all that bear drop, because I don't sit through bag holding weakness. And so if the broader market were to start to show me weakness and we don't have a headline on the short-term horizon, I'm definitely going to lighten up a little bit because I'm not going to hold through 2 months of red. I don't like the psychological impact of just that drain that it puts on you. I certainly know you all know what I'm talking about. So that's just my, mindset. At this point in time, I've got my MSOS core where, back from the HHS where I said, I think the long-term bottom is in because of the volume behind this move. I'm still holding that position. And I added on this weekly consolidation at EMA 12, I'm all out of my MSOS that I added. So selling into that move up, I still have a little bit of Trulieve that I added on the weekly consolidation, but I'm out, 3/4 of that with the nice 10% plus move that followed through from that. And I'll talk about that more when we get to Trulieve chart. This is going to be a long video. We're ranting today, but just filling you in with everything because it's been a while. I was away on the trip. So bigger picture, if we go to the 2-day time frame for MSOS, it is a tightening range. And if we're green on Monday, then it's potentially a 2-day higher low being set. And, shout out to Chart Guys members that have been pointing this out. I haven't looked at the 2-day time frame yet on this name, and it's nice and clear. So we've got to hold this low. That 828 low, that's the target for the bears. They know that they will crush some more souls if they break that level and hit fresh, month plus lows. So that's the key support. That's the key resistance up at 969, but it's first 918 as far as the level that I care about in the short term. And can the bulls show up and defend things here? This is the weekly EMA 12. We held the first test. We had a nice bounce. We're now testing it again. The strongest charts just run up EMA 12. And some of these charts that we're going to look at, specifically the psychedelic names, which are absolutely outperforming cannabis names over the last month plus. We'll talk about that a bit later. But they're running up these EMAs and showing what, a bull wants to see in a strong uptrend. Got to hold that weekly EMA 12. Look at the biotech sector. So we did just trade sideways, bull flag, hold the EMA 12, get your next leg up. If they had lost that EMA 12, that next leg up would have been much less likely. Hold the EMA 12s. All right, green thumb. So buyback, mentioned that. We want to make sure. So the range on green thumb is extremely clear. We double top to the penny, which is not a coincidence. The bears absolutely defended resistance, and now we're bouncing just above support. This is the channel that we've been trading in within the last 6 weeks. Nothing changes bigger picture until we break one of these levels. And again, the analogy that I keep giving recently is trenches in World War I, where you got two sides dug in and they're battling for ground, just this zone, and they're trying to gain ground in that zone. And so we got our trenches. The bulls have their trench, the bears have their trench. The bulls just repelled the bears a bit on Friday from getting really close to their trench, and we're trying to get back to the middle here. And if we break bear, we're going to zoom out and look for monthly consolidation to be back underway. And, we have a lot of space for a monthly high or low, but again, I don't want to sit through 2 red months of slow bleed. So bulls really want to defend that level to try and prevent that. And obviously the resistance zone is a bit further away at this point, but keeping an eye on that. And as far as, relative strength, it's definitely one of the stronger names, but nothing notable standing out to me on that front. We've got Trulieve. Relative strength is very notable still. And if you look at TCNNF divided by MSOS, we're back to the highs, meaning this is the strongest that Trulieve has been on Friday compared to MSOS in years. So about 1.5 years at this point, just completely shifting the momentum thanks to Florida and testing all-time highs. We are close to being the strongest we've ever been compared to the ETF. And so again, as I've mentioned, I was buying on the way down. And again, I talked about this in the videos, and I post on Twitter and things like that. So I don't have my receipts up here, but those that have been paying attention know that I was talking about it. So in on the, I was in just under 9, add a bit more in the low 8s, sell a bit when we're back in the 9s, sell a bit, right around 10. And again, now down to about 25% position, and may just stick a stop under 950. Again, same thing. Look at the short-term trenches here. Clearly, the bulls are defending 950. That is the bull trench, and we got our bear trench up here in their zones. They're not specific 1 penny levels. They're little zones, and we're testing the resistance zone on the end of the day Friday move. And so obviously if the bulls get over 1062, that would be nice. Why am I selling? Because I'm in conservative mode. I'm not going into aggressive mode until we have confirmed headlines and a lot of social media attention. But the most likely scenario here without a headline for me is a weekly lower high, and to just tighten up in a very, not like that, tighten up in a very wide range. And so I'm selling into this move, locking in 10, 15%, whatever, because taking profit's a good thing. And if we don't top out and we keep running, I'm going to benefit from my MSOS longer term position and from my runner Trulieve position. If we do top out, I locked in the profit, can't lose on this trade, and that's a much more comfortable place to be in. So keeping an eye out for the potential that we tighten up, but clearly Trulieve is a lead bull still. Curaleaf, still possible, cup and handle. And again, cup and handles are the most overdiagnosed, incorrectly diagnosed pattern on social media because everybody wants their name to be a cup and handle about to break out. But the last year, I've seen more cup and handles all over the markets than I've seen in a very long time, if ever. So they are working and they are worth paying attention to. And, some of my entries in the psychedelic names were based on this concept. And so the simple statement is this possibility of a cup and handle remains alive as long as 455 is support. It's the same thing. It's just a tightening range. And so this is why I sell a bit of Trulieve, because, is this what Trulieve is about to do? Well, we'll see. But just protecting against that being a possibility with that weekly lower high. So we have this tightening range here, and 2-day time frame, just condense it down, make it a little bit more clear, where we've got our high, low, lower high, and now bulls are attempting the higher low compared to 455, but they have to show up this week. Smaller names, again, in bull environments, the smaller names are going to outperform. In the bear environments, they're going to underperform. It's just because they're more thinly traded. They're like leveraged versions of the tier ones in terms of their percentage moves because they're more thinly traded. And so they led the way up, on that 2-month nice bull move. And now they're leading the way down very clearly. Verano at this point has pulled back a very significant amount from its high. We were down 30-something%. If MSOS were down 30-something%, we'd be a solid bit lower here. But it's not just Verano. You go down the list, AYRWF way off of its high, gave back over 50%. TSNDF way off of its high, gave back, I don't know, math on the fly, a lot, 35% plus. Trying to bottom a bit, but again, just talking bigger picture. One name to be watching, HITI, again, not enough volume for me, but this chart is as tight as you can get. And one thing that technical analysis is good for is telling you when volatility is coming. And on the Bitcoin chart, the day before this break on social media, I was posting this is the tightest Bitcoin has been in the last bunch of months. Volatility is coming. I couldn't say we're about to break out and head towards all-time highs, but I could say volume and volatility is coming. And I could say the same thing for HITI. We have not been this tight in months. The last time we were this tight, I'm not saying we're going to do this again, but clearly that tight range leads to a massive move in price discovery. So that can happen in either direction, but pay attention because it's coming here. Just in terms of, I'm viewing this just as an equilibrium. And the bears clearly controlled this week with the close lower than the open every single day, but must hold 170 and must break 186 if the bulls are going to break bullish from this range. But volatility is coming. And again, look at the back test of these EMA 12s. They're doing everything they can to try and hold it and keep the bull control in the longer term time frame. We'll see if they're successful in doing so over the next week. IIPR does not get love in this sector on social media. I don't know why. It correlates with the broader market. The broader market's been going up, and here we are, having a nice setup for the bulls. We had a weekly downtrend confirm with no follow-through thanks to a bullish earnings reaction, and it's a potential little monthly bull flag, and it's a potential little daily bull flag, and just, knocking on the door of the recent high. If we get over 103.23, we could say we're at the highest level that we've been at in over a year, new 52-week highs. That would obviously be a good thing. If we get over 112.60, we could say highest level that we've been at in, a year and a half plus. So just keeping an eye on it. I haven't traded it in a while, but again, compared to, a lot of the other cannabis names, certainly standing out this past week thanks to earnings. So keeping an eye on it. All right, psychedelic space. This is absolutely worth paying attention to. And they're outperforming thanks to the biotech. I've been noticing a biotech sector correlation, and much more of a correlation than the cannabis sector to a broader market major sector. What's the reason? In my opinion, we're uplisted. We're on the NASDAQ. We're on the NYSE. Nope, they're all on the NASDAQ. They're all on the NASDAQ, and there is correlation going on without a doubt. And just, to show you very simply, here's CMPS with a 3-day breakout that started on Monday. Breakout, 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 big dump. Definitely earnings a factor. V-shaped bounce. Just barely fail the high of Thursday on Friday. Biotech sector. Breakout. First 3 days to start the week. Boom, boom, boom. Then you have your big dump day on Thursday. Then Friday. Get it all back. Failed just under the high. That's a correlation. That's not a coincidence. So keep an eye on the biotech sector if you're watching psychedelics. It's absolutely worth paying attention to. Again, it's not an everyday thing. It's not at the 5-minute time frames aligning. Just sentiment-wise and bigger picture absolutely gives us some useful information that we should be paying attention to. And so because we have this correlation to the broader market, and as I mentioned, the broader market is as strong as it can possibly be, we're performing in this sector better than cannabis. And these names have less dollar volume, less attention. I make posts on Twitter about MSOS, and if I'm making a real bullish post, I'll get 120 likes and I'll get 12,000 impressions. If I make a psychedelic post, I'm going to get, 27 likes, decent impressions, but half of the attention talking about the psychedelic sector. I like that as a bull because I would much rather have prices going up and performing on the charts with social media not paying attention and not on top of it, as opposed to social media being all over it, but prices going down. Because that means that this is not retail driven. People aren't, jumping into this sector at this point. And I'll show you why looking at these ETFs in just a moment. But I keep saying that, in my opinion, the potential percentage rewards in the psychedelic space, probably more than cannabis. The cannabis market caps are much larger. They've already had euphoria to fear massive runs. They've already gotten the spotlight to a certain degree on social media. I mean, they were trending on Wall Street Bets a time or two. And, it all depends on how the headlines go. What kind of headline do we need the headline in the psychedelic space? And so how's that going to look? I don't know. We know we have the possibility that the FDA could approve MDMA for PTSD. That would definitely be a benefit. The more studies that come out help. If we get, a buyout, if a biotech company buys a psychedelic focused name, that would be very beneficial. But essentially, if we get Wall Street Bets and Twitter on this sector, it's so thinly traded that they will run very hard. And these ETFs, well, I guess we'll go into it. So these ETFs have no volume. I can't trade them. They're not enough volume. Big volume day Friday. What's this for PSYK? It's traded on the NEO exchange in Canada. But this dollar volume is like $350,000 traded, roughly speaking. The other ETF, PSIL, is traded on the NYSE. And its dollar volume Friday, again, solid volume, but in reality, it's $160,000 traded. It is absolutely nothing. And so we know what MSOS did for this sector when volume started pouring in to the ETF. It made things run, and it's working in the opposite direction for the bears on the way down. We know it works both ways. I keep warning the Bitcoin people, hey, ETFs, they're great. They're running the price. You better believe Wall Street is going to use those ETFs to crush Bitcoin when the time comes, whenever that may be. But if the ETFs start catching a bid, look at the assets under management. So Horizons has 11 million assets under management. What if 100 million, what if there's a hype headline and there's a day or a week, whatever, where $50 million comes into this sector? It's the ETFs. If we start seeing that kind of volume, it's going to be very meaningful. I would be paying more attention to PSIL because it's on the NYSE, but even its assets under management is under $8 million traded, or under $8 million. It's absolutely nothing. It's non-existent. So again, if we get the attention that brings the dollar volume in, these things will move. I mean, we'll see that, they buy the ETF, the ETFs buy the underlying, and the underlyings don't have a ton of volume as well either. Definitely more than the ETFs. CMPS is the largest name as far as market cap, and its average volume, we're looking at about 8 or 9 million. So it's definitely something, but the other names, the smaller names, not quite as significant. So that's my spiel as to why I'm paying attention to this sector, big picture. But if things are going to get nutty, there's got to be the headline that just sees capital flow in a very short amount of time. Do I think mushrooms is a good business model for a long-term investment? Absolutely not. I play the social game. I get into cannabis before any state has ever voted to legalize. And I recognized the social sentiment shift. I was betting on the social aspect more than the individual companies. I will do the same thing with this sector, and I will lock in profit into that hype and euphoria and not be a bag holder with an investing 10-year mindset. All right, so on to the individual names. CMPS Daily Inside Bar, very clearly support zone. Where's our trench? Bulls are defending this support zone. As far as resistance, we did just hit multiple year highs on Wednesday. Nice move up. Earnings was a bit of a setback, but nice recovery. And so the question is, can the bulls just keep control. And we got the weekly here. So again, you make the breakout, you back test and hold it, you back test and hold it. You got to hold that EMA 12 to keep the trend going and keep momentum going. If these bulls can get back over 1275, the recent high, not a ton of resistance nearby. Just keep holding the weekly EMA 12 to try and keep that control. I don't have a CMPS position. I have a MNMD position and an ATAI position, and I'll talk about those. So MNMD is absolutely beautiful. Look at this breakout. Nobody's talking about it on social media. We just went up. There's tons of volatility. It's very thinly traded. But this week, we went from last Friday, close of $4.91. Let's just call it $5. I mean, we're up 22% this week. And again, look at the volatility here where we absolutely dump. And this is, great for traders, but absolutely dump on the open on Wednesday. Big drop. I mean, we're down 15% or whatever from the previous day. And we bounced. I mean, look at this bounce and how quickly it happened. Into the next day morning, we're up 26% in pretty much one full day of trading. And so bulls bought that dip, obviously, but that just goes to show you there's going to be big dips here. I use smaller position sizes because of this much volatility. I forget when I got in. I was talking about it when I did in these videos. Maybe it was back here. I don't even remember. But at this point, I have a runner position where I'm just letting it go. Maybe it goes up to where, I don't know, wherever it goes up, but I'm just letting it run. Look at the daily EMA 12. Hold it and another leg up. Hold it, another leg up. Hold it, another leg up. Hold it, another leg up. That's your guide. If that's holding, the bulls don't have anything to worry about. Breaking over $5, look at this wall. A lot of individual growth-related names in the biotech sector, I lump in with growth names, IWM. They have a wall of resistance for a couple years that breaks. This is coin, crypto name. You break 116 and 114, big follow through, back test continuation, no resistance above that level. Same thing here. SOUN was a AI name that just did it. And now we've got MNMD doing it. And so over $5, where's resistance? I'm not looking at anything nearby until $7.95 previous support, now resistance. It's easy street for the bulls. When you enter an area, it's a pocket. It's an air pocket that's easy to move through. And when I did volume profile, a video with Lamont on this sector a while ago, his style and showing those different pockets, you know what I'm talking about. So all bulls and looking for a daily high or low next consolidation. Really strong. So letting that runner go. And I entered ATAI on Friday. Why? Because I like the strength in the sector. I like the strength in the biotech sector. This is just sideways, extremely healthy consolidation. Remember the biotech sector, how we just did that? Sideways, EMA 12 catches up, bull flag confirmed. ATAI, sideways, EMA 12 catches up, trying to see continuation. We're testing resistance. After 223, it's 239. If we clear 239, things open up a bit. But, first bull cross of the EMA in of many years ever. First bull cross ever. Just a bottoming pattern. And so, I made half an entry. And why I don't like talking about low cap names like HITI and why I keep saying I have volume criteria, because, I made an initial entry at 205, half of my swing position, and then I let the chat room know, I don't front run people. I don't front run and then tell everybody, hey, I bought this name, and then sell into the pump. So I let the chart guys know, hey, I'm entering a swing trade here. I like this setup. And, this is, I say it right here, because it's so thinly traded, even if it's just $50,000, $100,000 coming in from other people saying, oh, I like the setup too. Okay, I'll do it as well. It influences the price. I didn't even get my second entry because, my lesson there is shut up until you get your entry. But we had a very nice follow through, big day, up 10% at one point. And my stop was nice and nearby. I'm entering this saying, I'll put my stop under 191, a little bit of wiggle room, because if that level breaks, the daily uptrend is lost. And if that level holds, I have nothing to worry about. And so we're just stair-stepping our way up. Higher, low, higher, high. Higher, low, higher, high. Higher, low, higher, high. Trying to get back to 223 for breakout follow-through. So we'll see if I get my second half of my entry position, but a nice setup. All right, I think that's everything I want to talk about. There's other psychedelic names, but I'm keeping it simple. I can only pay attention to so many things in the market, especially with crypto going here. So just a handful of psychedelic names. Feel free to ask any questions. As always, likes and shares keep me making content. 30 minutes on a Saturday morning. What's good? Do good things.